welcome back to another Books and Looks video. I'm Jen, and if you are new here, thank you so much for watching my videos. What I do is I combine two of my favorite things, playing with makeup and reading books, put them together into a Books and Looks video where I do a get ready with me while I talk about a book that I have recently read. If you are a returning watcher, thank you so much for joining me again. I really appreciate you, and I love the interaction, so keep the likes, the subscribes, and the comments coming. It's a lot of fun. So I guess without further ado, let's begin. I already pulled my hair out of my way. Today's book is A Court of Thorn and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, I believe. Maas? I'm not sure. Probably Maas. I caved. I tend to choose not to read books that are really hyped up. I don't want to, get on the bandwagon and read the book that everybody else is reading. I like the more obscure books or the classics. But every now and then I cave. So many people recommended this to me. And I gotta say I was underwhelmed. Like right off the bat, I'll tell you, I was underwhelmed. Although I did have some spoilers from people talking to me and telling me about it, and just from like TikTok videos and Reels videos and stuff, and just like hearing about it. So that may have influenced me. So if you don't know what the story's about, let me tell you about it briefly. It is about a girl who, she's a human, and there's, fairies, but there was a war 500 years ago, and now there's like a wall separating them. And the humans are afraid of the fairies for good reason, because they're very powerful, and the humans are just trying to survive. And this girl, I can't remember her name already. This is awful. Oh, Feyre. Her name is Feyre, and like her family lost all their money. The mom died, of course. And it's her dad, and her two sisters, and they're very poor, just trying to survive. She's, of course, a hunter. Another reason I was underwhelmed is because this is like every fiction, sci-fi, female heroine saves the world kind of situations, romance, blah, 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 blah. It checked every box. So I was like, yeah, the whole time. But Feyre, she hunts to survive and, get food for her family. And while she's hunting, she unknowingly, well, she sort of knows, but she's not sure, kills a fairy in wolf form. And she does it because she's scared, and also there was a deer there, and she's like, I need this deer to feed my family. I have to kill the wolf in order to get the deer. I don't want the wolf to get the deer, but she uses a special arrow on the wolf that only kills fairies. So, or is he like the only thing that'll kill a fairy? So like she had to have known, because why would she use this very expensive, she only has one unless she knew, right? Right. That comes back. So she kills this fairy, and then the fairies are all mad, and the lord of the area that the dead fairy came from comes to get her and says, as per the treaty among our people, you killed one of my fairies in my court, so I either kill you or you have to come with me and live with me forever. So she's like, okay, well, I guess I'm going with you. So she goes with him, and then of course over the course of the story they fall in love, because what else happens between a human and a fairy who, I don't know. I shouldn't roll my eyes. People love this book. They're obsessed with this book. It was predictable. It was cliche. Maybe that's why they like it, but I don't know. They fall in love. And the whole time he's like, he tells her that there's this curse in the world, and they're trying to fight it, but they can't because it's extremely powerful, and it has weakened all of their abilities and magic and whatnot. So they're all struggling just to survive. Oh, and I almost forgot, they are all wearing masks, because when this curse came down, they had these masks on, and so the curse made it so that they can never take their masks off. So she can't see any of their faces. And they all can morph into animals. They're animaguses. I don't remember how you say it from the Harry Potter, but they can transform into animals. And the lord of this area, it can transform into a wolf. A lot of them can transform into a wolf. Some of them birds, etc., etc. So she's living there now and is, trying to figure out what to do, how to survive, how to escape, and tries to escape, and it doesn't work, etc., etc. And she's slowly finding out that there's this weird curse that keeps they can't take their masks off. They've all lost a lot of power. This curse is like slowly encroaching, and like evil creatures that used to be magically repelled and kept away are now coming onto the property and causing havoc and killing, etc., etc. And the only person who can really keep them safe is the Lord, whose name, I'm awful. I literally just recently finished reading this and I still can't remember the names. Cool. The main freaking character's name, and I can't remember. Tamlin. That's right. I remember the other guy, Resend. We'll get to him. Tamlin is the Lord who came and kidnapped her and is making her stay with him as the, trade-off for the fact that she broke the human fairy treaty and killed a fairy. So Tamlin's the Lord. He's the only one who can like protect them. So he's constantly gone fighting off these creatures that are creeping onto his land, and he's kind of standoffish and grumpy and growly and whatnot, but he's also like beautiful and kind and gentle with her. So yeah, they slowly fall in love. And then there's like a couple of moments here and there where they have like the spring solstice. I'm not even gonna get into that, never mind. They have like a summer solstice kind of ceremony, and then they also have this weird ceremony where Tamlin has to have sex with somebody in order to like preserve the magic in their realm. I don't know, it was really weird. And that's when she realizes like, oh, I really do love him, because she was like super jealous. And then so they fall in love slowly, and then randomly he's like, all right, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, you can just go home. And he basically like kicks her out of the fairy realm, right? He just kicks her out and is like, this is over, thanks, but I'm done, bye. And she's like, but I don't understand, why are you doing this? And he's like, I'm doing this because I love you. And then he like pushes her away, and so she's like, oh my gosh, he loves me. She didn't say it back, of course, though, because she was so, so she goes home and she finds out that it's one thing that she'd been worried about this whole time, is like, how's my family going to survive? Because she was the one who was always hunting, and the only reason they survived because her sisters were useless, and her father was like depressed because he lost all their money and the wife died and blah, 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 blah. So she was the only reason they survived, and of course she was devastated and worried about them the whole time. But when she goes home, she finds out that Tamlin made sure that they were well taken care of, right? He put like, they called it a glamour, which PS is a term used in lots of other fantasy novels. Basically like a spell over everybody so they don't realize the truth. He put a glamour over everything and basically got them all set up, made them believe that this crazy thing happened, and they came back into money, and they have a new house, and they have food and servants and everything just like they used to. And when it comes to Feyre, they didn't know where she went. So she was off taking care of a wealthy aunt who was on the verge of dying and blah, 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 blah. So when Feyre comes home after like, I guess it was like 6 months or so, they're like, oh, did our Aunt Judy, of course I don't remember her name, did Aunt Judy die? And she's like, yeah, that's what happened. Because she didn't really know what the glamour was or what Tamlin did to protect the family until she got home and found all of this out. And, humans are like particularly susceptible to the glamour, right? Because they're just mediocre mini humans, or you're not mini humans, but like, they're lesser than, they're stupid, they're so easy to fool, blah, 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 blah. So she comes home and she finds out all of this stuff has happened. Her family is safe, but her one sister, the one who was like really awful to her all the time, of course, because her sisters were awful to her, but the one who was particularly awful to her is real suspicious and weird. Like, hey, I went to try to visit you at our aunt's, but I never could find the place. We had all these problems and I ended up coming back. I'm sorry, I really wanted to visit you, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh no, it's fine. It's blah, blah, blah. But as it turns out, her sister, and this is a part that bothers me, okay? for whatever reason, her sister, because I guess she has like a hardened heart because of the difficulties she's experienced in life, the glamour didn't work on her. Plot hole. The glamour works on everybody all the time. And to the point where while Pharaoh was living up in the castle with Lord Tamlin, she couldn't see 80% of the stuff. He put a glamour over her and she didn't even see most of the fairies and creatures that were living there. She it was weird. I don't even understand. Like, how did her sister not be glamored because she has a hardened heart? Like, Feyre had a pretty hardened heart too. Like, whatever. So she and her sister now decide, we're going to figure this out and we're going to fight this, because they also realize that there was something bigger going on in the fairy realm, and it wasn't just like a little curse that was making magic weaker. She's like, I need to go back and make sure everything's okay. I don't know what's going on, but I know it's something bad. Because also, this is, by the way, more than halfway through. So that little bit of things happened 75% of the book. Another reason why I was underwhelmed. It was way too much imagery and description of the world and the people and the, I don't know. And the spicy bits were mediocre spicy. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe if I was a teenager, I would have found them, or like a younger adult. But now I'm just like, okay, they were like in the bed and kissing and it was hot. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry. I said it. I was underwhelmed. It was predictable. It was cheesy. It was too cliche. But I digress. So, where was I? So she decides, through talking with her sister and like slowly figuring out there's something more going on in the fairy realm than Tamlin was telling her. It's more than just like this minor curse that has weakened their magic and created a opening for some bad creatures, blah, 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 blah. So she decides she's going to go back, even though she was like, what's the word? Rejected, but not rejected. Expelled. That's the good word. Even though she was expelled, she's like, I have to go back. And so she goes back, and when she gets there, she sees that the entire castle and all of the lands are empty. Everything's gone. The whole house is destroyed. So she's like, oh my gosh, what happened? Yikes. So she is investigating the house, and she bumps into the one servant girl lady who was like her primary servant helper person, like lady in waiting, so to speak. So she's like, oh my gosh, what happened? Where is everybody? And she tells Feyre everything. She's like, okay, here's the truth. There is this evil witch person, evil fairy who wants to take over everything. And she gives her like this whole history of the Fae realm and how there used to be one king over all of it, and all of the humans used to be servants and slaves and were treated awful. And then one day the humans rebelled and there was like this war, and some of the fairies fought on the war on the side of the humans because they thought they hated having humans as servants and slaves, and so they wanted them to be free. And so the king like hated that. And he had this second in command woman, fairy girl thing, witch, who went against the king's wishes and like did a whole bunch of horrible things during the war. Like, I don't know, just bad stuff. Like tortured people, killed everybody, just destroyed everybody. It was bad. And the king didn't really do much of anything, but essentially the humans were winning at some point, and so the fairies decided, let's create this treaty situation because the humans are winning, or the humans and fairies fighting with the humans are winning, so let's just make this treaty. They divided the land into the human realm and the fairy realm, put this big wall in between, and they were just living their life for many, many, many years. Well, like 50 years ago, all that whole time, like for 500 years, the king was just doing his thing over in his little section. He got his own little section, and then like the rest of the fairy realm divided into smaller sections, and the most powerful fairies each got their own little court, and Tamlin's court was the one closest to the wall, blah 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 blah. But in the meantime, this whole time, this evil lady fairy thing witch was plotting, and 50 years ago she had a particular thing against Tamlin. I guess she had like a crush on him or whatever. I don't know. Or maybe it was because he was like, he liked humans and like fought on the side of humans. I don't really know. But she had this whole thing with Tamlin, and so she finally, after all this time, came after him, and she put this big curse on him and his court only. So the masks was only in Tamlin's court, and they were, forced to live their life with these masks on permanently. They all lost the vast majority of their power, blah, 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 blah. So she said, after 50 years, I will release you from your curse if you can get a human woman to fall in love with you. So, of course, then that's when you find out that Tamlin had been sending people out into the human realm, sending fairies out into the human realm to like try to okay, back up. The curse was the human woman had to kill a fairy and fall in love with Tamlin. So Tamlin was sending scouts out into the human realm basically as like sacrifices with the intent of one of them being killed, and then he would go after that woman and try to get her to fall in love with him. And of course it worked with Feyre. She killed one of his scouts, and then he came to her and was like, listen, I'm going to kill you, or you can come live with me in my castle forever. So, of course, she chose the castle. She falls in love with him, but he actually falls in love with her, too. So, it wasn't, like, it was a ploy, and it was a trick, and it was manipulation, and toxic, and all that. But they genuinely fall in love with each other because, like, she's their stereotypical fantasy heroine. She's strong, she's vulnerable, she's beautiful, rugged, da 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 da. She's the perfect woman. We get it. And so they fall in love. And so like the curse should be broken, but she never actually said out loud, I love you, Tamlin. So the curse didn't get broken. So during the time that she was back home for like a month or so, the 50-year curse ended, and so the evil witch lady shows up and takes Tamlin and is like, well, you're mine now. I gave you 50 years to try to break the curse. You couldn't do it because humans are awful, and you're mine now. And she takes him to her underground lair, where she's basically now officially in control of everything other than what the other king, his little area. She's in control of everything, and she's evil, and she's awful, and a lot of the people have become evil and awful with her, but not everybody. Some people just live a tortured life. Fairies we're talking about. So she's like, oh my gosh, I gotta save Tamlin, I love him, and I'm not gonna let this evil fairy witch just take all my chances of happiness, blah, 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 because I'm a human girl, and I'm, 17, 19, something years old. I can clearly defeat an entire army of fairies that are led by a witch that has been around for thousands of years and also won an entire war and killed millions of fairies. I can totally take her. Sorry. It was a lovely book, and So she goes, and because of the servant lady who she met in the castle, told her all the things. She also told her where to find the secret entrance to the underground lair. Because that's the thing. So she sneaks into the underground lair and bypasses thousands of fairies that are existing down there and that all have magical powers, and some of which are evil and can kill you just by looking at you. But she made it. She made it all the way to the throne room before, and I think she gets caught and taken to the throne room. That may have happened. I'm not really sure. I started reading this book, kind of skimming it and reading it quickly because it was getting on my nerves, but I still wanted to know how it ended. So, anywho, she makes it to the throne room, and they're sitting next to the queen, this evil queen fairy woman thing is Tamlin, right? Still with his mask on, of course, because he still hasn't given in to her and said okay, yes, I will be your whatever. Like, this is it. I agree. So he still has his mask on. All of his subjects still have their masks on, whatever, blah, 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 blah. So she's there. And the evil queen lady, I wonder if I can find her name. Probably not. Well, anyway, the evil queen is like, listen, Amarantha. Her name's Amarantha. So Amarantha is like, oh, isn't this fun? A human to torture. And then you come to find out there's like other humans that she has kidnapped and tortured over the years. And has also threatened to torture her own sisters, blah, 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 blah. And father. So now she's there and she's like, oh yeah, another person to torture. And she's like, listen, I will give you 3 tests. And if you can pass all 3 of my tests, of course, I will set you free. I will set Tamlin free. I will let everybody free if you can just pass these 3 tests. And she's like, Feyre's like, all right, let's do this. And she's like, well, I'm not going to, she's like, she's going to do it in like on the full moon or something. So she's like, until it's ready, you can go live in my dungeons. So Feyre's in the dungeon. Oh, and she also gets the crap beat out of her. So she's in the dungeon, all hurt. I think she has like a broken rib and a broken arm. And any day now, she has to go do these like tests or whatever to save all of fairy kind, right? Just this random 19-year-old human girl. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, the Tamlin had like a second in command, best friend person, Lucian. I think it was Lucius. I think it was Lucian. But anyway, he was also there, and he was kind of also being tortured too because he's still loyal to Tamlin, and so Amarantha's like, well, I hate you because of that. And so he's been tortured too, but he sneaks out because he has some interesting powers. He sneaks out and goes and he helps her and he heals Feyre. So now she's doing good. She's getting food. She's healing or whatever, just preparing for whatever this first test is. Finally, the day comes and she does the first test, and it's to kill this big like worm creature thing that is trying to eat her, and she has to do it in the worm's lair, which is basically like underground, slimy, muddy, whatever. But of course she does it because she's a resourceful girl, right? She's been a hunter and she's survived poverty for like 4 whole years. So she's got this. And she actually does. She is able to create a trap using the bones of all of the other people, creatures, whatever, that this worm thing has consumed. I don't know. I guess he pooped out the bones. I don't know. But she gets all the bones and she turns them into like spikes or something and then lures the worm, and then the worm like falls on it and dies. She defeats it. Okay. 1 done. Well, now she knows she has another month before the next one, but also she's like is barely eating, and she's just constantly doing these battles. So she's like, oh, I guess I gotta do this. She survives. So between the first one and the second one, in comes Rhysand. Now, I think that's how you say it. I say Rhysand, like, so that when they call him Rhys. So Rhysand they've been calling him Amarantha's whore because I guess he's a lord of one of the other courts, the Night Court, which every time I read that or talk about it, I think of that old TV show. You know the Night Court? But make a comment down below if you know the Night Court. Tell me your memories of Night Court. But I was like, okay, it's the Night Court. Cool. Anywho, so Rhysand is he is on Amarantha's side. He's like her boyfriend or whatever, and he's sprinkled throughout the whole story. Like, he's popped up a couple of times. Like, at one point when she was still living with Tamlin before she was sent away, she wandered off and got attacked by some evil fairy creature, and Rhysand, for whatever reason, was there and saved her, and then later came to torment and torture and tease Tamlin, and he recognized her, but Tamlin was trying to protect her from him, and he was like, oh, I know you, da 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 da. So, like, he pops in every now and then. Well, now he's, like, a key player because now she just defeated the worm and she's, like, exhausted and whatever. And he appears and he cleans her up, like, helps her get clean and heals her as well because she got, I think this might have been when she broke the rib. Maybe before it was just the arm. I don't know, but either way. And he, like, gives her food, and he also commands the like guards in the dungeon that they can't touch her, they can't harm her. And because he's like one of the evil queen's highest seconds or whatever, and you know, he's like sleeping with her or whatnot, they listen to him. And so she gets better taken care of, she gets better food, they don't like beat her or torture her anymore, which is lovely. Like, yeah, that's what we want, right? Well, so then, but he also puts a tattoo on her arm as like all on her hand and stuff. And he's like, this is to mark you as mine so that nobody will touch you, and I will protect you and I will help you. But also, this also means that as mine, you belong to me. And once a month, you will come to me and you will be my slave and do whatever I say. Which is like, but no, it's not that. He's actually, no, spoiler alert, I won't say that. So over the next month, he does like call her to him, and basically all they do is hang out. Like they talk, they hang out. He just asks her questions about humans, and she asks him questions about the history of fairies and whatnot, and where Amarantha came from. And they talk, they kind of grow close, but at the same time, she's like still completely head over heels in love with Tamlin, and she's basically just using him, but also realizing like I can kind of sort of trust him. I got mascara on my lid. I got to get that. So the third trial comes, and I forget. I know what the trial is, but I feel like other things happen in the meantime as well, but that's neither here nor there. So the third trial comes, and she goes, and there are 3 fairies there with hoods over their head. And Amarantha's like, since you're such a fairy killer, you're going to kill all 3 of these fairies. And then as soon as you finish killing these 3 fairies, I'll snap my fingers and everyone will be free. I will give up my throne. I will give everybody their powers back. And yeah, it'll be over. She's like, oh my gosh, I can't kill these fairies. Like, I'm not a killer. That one was like a one-off, and I regret it. But she's like, I have to. And she kind of says like to herself, I'm doing it for the greater good. I'm doing this to save the lives of thousands of fairies. What 3 fairies? Like, I already killed one. Why not another, right? So the first one comes off, and it's like this young kid, and she's like, I don't know if I can do this, but she does. She stabs him, and he dies. And everybody's like, it's not everybody. A lot of people are crying, and like he was begging for his life, and it was really hard. And then the second one comes off. Oh, and also because of the tattoo with Rhysand, he can like get into her. He could always get into her thoughts. It's like a magic power of his, but now he really can, and he like helps her through it, like talks her through it, and is like, "This is you're doing the right thing," and kind of gives her the strength to do it, which is kind of weird, but yeah. So the second one is like this adult fairy, and she basically is like crying and scared, but also gives her a look like it's okay, you can do this for all of fairy kind. So she does it. She kills the second one, and then the third one pops off. The hood pops off, and it's Tamlin, of course. So she has to kill the love of her life, Tamlin, all of that. Like, the whole reason she came here was to save him, and if she kills him, then everybody is made free. Everything okay over there? Yes. So she's like, oh my gosh, I can't kill him. It's just not possible. I don't understand. Like this was the trick. So back when the whole thing first started, the whole like 3 trials thing, the Queen Amarantha also said, listen, I'll give you a 1-out option. If you can solve this riddle, I will, all you have to do is say the answer to the riddle and everything's over. You don't have to do any more trials. You don't have, like, I will let you go. I will let Tamlin go. I will let everybody go, and I will end it all. Knowing full well that if she does, all of the fairies will have their full magic power left, and she'll be destroyed in a moment. Even if just by Tamlin, but like all the fairies are going to go after her, right? That she has enslaved and tortured for a very long time. So I don't remember offhand what the riddle was. It was like a poem that was like 4 stanzas long. But I got to tell you, when I read it, there were 2 things that popped into my head. Truth and love. Love was the answer. Of course. Of course. Because it's this genre and that's what they do. So there she is. She has to either solve this. She's been racking her brain for the last 3 months trying to solve this riddle. The one that I solved like within 60 seconds. But again, I don't know. Underwhelmed. How did she not figure that out? I don't know. Whatever. So there she is. She has to kill Tamlin to end everything or solve the riddle. And I don't think... does she stab Tamlin? I don't remember if she stabs Tamlin or not. She must not, because she solves the riddle just in time. No, she does. She does stab him. Because I remember the one chapter ended with stab. Whatever. She stabbed him. But he doesn't die immediately. It takes a few moments because he's a very strong and powerful fairy. But right as she stabs him, she solves the riddle like at the same time and was like, the answer is love. Your riddle is love. And you told me that you promised me that you would release everybody. And so she does, because she's, I don't know. Just honestly, like, if she's an evil queen, why did she just lie and be like, I don't feel like it. Never mind. I take it back. But whatever. She doesn't, which is a good thing. And then Tamlin... everybody's released from their magical hold, and Tamlin suddenly becomes like super strong and powerful. His mask, all the masks fall off. Tamlin's like, and he turns into this big strong wolf and destroys Amarantha as well as some other evil ones. All of the evil fairies like flee, and all of the good fairies start fighting. It only lasts a few seconds, but unfortunately, Feyre gets hurt and destroyed, not destroyed, but hurt really, really bad in the ensuing battle. And so she's like on her deathbed, and Tamlin's like, oh, my love, I love you, and you just saved my life, and all of fairy kind, and you're the most amazing creature, blah, 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 blah. But everybody in the fairy realm agrees the same, because she did all of those sacrifices to help save the fairies from the evil queen. So everybody was like, oh my gosh, like, we need to do something. We can't just let this person die. She's our savior, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So apparently in this lore, if each of the different lords of each court, day, night, spring, summer, autumn, winter, and then there's another one that's like morning, which doesn't make sense because like day and night, whatever, there's another one, but all of them come together and they do like this magical thing to Feyre, which basically turns her into a fairy, which gives her the power to heal herself, come alive, and she's basically reborn as a fairy. So now she's a fairy. Ta-da! And that's how the story ends. She's a fairy. She and Tamlin are like, oh, I love you, we can be together forever. And they go home, and the castle and all the grounds are all put back together, and all the people go home. But she still has this connection to Rhysand because of her tattoo and everything. So she still has to go spend time with Rhysand once a month for a week. And Tamlin hates it because he hates Rhysand, not only because they're like opposite courts, but like they grew up together and they have that whole history. And plus he was like on Amarantha's side and was doing her bidding and all of her bad stuff. So he hates him, and now he has like control over her for 1 week a month, and it's like his woman, blah, 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 blah. And she kind of she likes Rhysand, like she trusts him and everything that he did, because as it turns out, he never really liked Amarantha or wanted to do those things. He was just playing the game to survive. And that's kind of how it ends, right? Oh, I remember. The reason she stabbed him didn't hurt Tamlin is because part of the spell was it turned his heart to stone, literally and figuratively. So she couldn't stab him in the heart and kill him, because that was like the sword that she was using to kill all the fairies. Like it had to be a specific material, and you have to stab them in the heart. But she couldn't stab him in the heart because he doesn't have a heart. He has a stone there. And then, yeah. So that's why he didn't die. And then she becomes a fairy because everybody gave her their fairy power. They wake up and everything is good. She and Tamlin are together. She checks on her family. They're all fine and dandy because they were going to torture them and now they're not. So, because Amarantha's dead. And that's how it ends. And there's still more, like 5 or 6 books in the series. I do not plan on reading them. I did not like this enough to get into the other novels. Like, it was fine. It started out really, really slow. It was way too much describing things and way too much subtle backstory, like a little snippet here, a little snippet there. That didn't, like, it was a weird balance of I know too much about what the garden looks like. And there were all these little things that I could tell were important, but they weren't described enough for me to make sense of it. And so even in the end, when Amarantha was being defeated and all of that was happening, and you were kind of sort of seeing the pieces come together of the whole story and the whole realm and the whole lore, I was still like, wait, what? Who's who? Who's connected to who? Who's how? Why? There was just still a whole lot. And the love story was good. I mean, it was pretty obvious that they were falling in love with each other from the beginning. But it was... Feyre's character was annoyingly cliche. I'm sorry. Don't come after me. Go ahead and put stuff down in the comments if you think I'm 100% wrong. I'd love to hear what you think of it. But I thought she was cliche. I thought she was... I don't know. It was just like... too stereotypical. She was too stupid. Like, how, like, just stop. Like, come on. So, but anyway, if you, I'm sure you have, a lot of people have read this. If you read this and you have a different opinion, let me know what you think. I will not be reading the sequels, but I did Google what happens in some of the sequels, and it seems like the story gets more complicated. Some spoilers are coming up. For example, I know that her sisters come up into the fairy realm, and one or both of them eventually become fairies too for some reason. Weird. The king, the evil king from the other fairy realm somehow comes into it. All of the different courts end up warring. No, thank you. No, thank you. I love a good fantasy, but no, thank you. Yeah, so that's the end. This is my look. I put some green on. I think it looks kind of nice because I'm wearing a green hoodie today. I think my hair looks cute-ish. Yeah, I like my look today. I could maybe use a little more contour, but meh, it's fine. Do you like this? I had it in the last video, but I don't remember. Did I have the lights on last time? Either way, I also want to put a few pretties here. I'm not sure what. If you have any cool ideas of what pretty things I can put on the wall behind me, I would love some ideas. I have some like pictures that I might frame, like art pictures, but I don't know. And my husband was talking about maybe making me a Books and Looks like logo to put back there. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. If you have ideas, put them down below. So that is the end. Thank you so much. Wow, this turned out to be a long video for a book I didn't really like that much. Thanks for sticking with it. I hope you were entertained. I hope you liked my look today. Let me know what you think of the book today. If you have any other recommendations, give me some. Please don't recommend the rest of the series. I won't be reading it. But if you know any other good fantasy books, let me know. Yeah. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, week, year, everything. And as always, stay beautiful.